What's up, y'all? Kelly Clarkson with Wayfair. My favorite thing about the holidays? Decking out my whole house. It's not a competition, but if it was, well, I'd win the season with Wayfair. Outdoor inflatable Santa? Got it on Wayfair. Trees, lights, and ornaments? Wayfair. Hosting must-haves like dining sets, beds, sheets, and towels? Wayfair. For everything in your style delivered with fast and free shipping, visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app to win the season. But again, it's not a competition.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care. Go to Dutch.com to get vet care that is always there for just $92 a year.
Hello, kitties. This is your Julie, the Crypt Keeper, and you're listening to Slasher Radio.
Welcome to Slasher Radio. Now you make me start the show mad. Why?
Imagine. That's never happened before.
I was gonna say, you're always mad.
Yeah, you are angry.
Always yelling at him.
I've noticed that.
Always yelling at Rob. Like, be nice to your co-host.
I wish my co-hosts were nice to me. And no, I don't start the show angry. I eventually get angry. But here we are now. We just started.
I'm just saying. I feel like every time I talk to you, you're angry.
Imagine. You know, that's not. Like, yeah, that is true. I wonder why that is, Rob. We got a guest today.
Uh-huh. It's good. So, a peek behind the curtain, we're stacking these because Cass is going on her 15th vacation this year. And I don't remember which guest we're recording ahead of, but I'm sure they were great.
Vincente DiSanti. We talked about, yeah.
He was great, yeah. I know you told me, but I'm not going to remember. That was a while ago. I'm not going to remember that. Yeah, but he was great, yeah.
All right. You know what? I'm thinking about it more now. Here we go. On air, on the fly. This is how we do shit around here. We are stacking things. Cass is going to be going away next week, but we also have like 2 episodes in the can because we are talking to Vinny DiSanti this week. Never Hike Alone, Friday the 13th. All these things are going down. Also, some news after, because we've been pushing this poor interview back, and it's a shame because it was such an awesome conversation. We've been pushing it back a couple weeks because we've had so much shit going on with other stuff and all this shit. So we talked Never Hike Alone. We talked a lot of Friday the 13th stuff. We recorded this around Friday the 13th, so like a couple weeks ago. But it was also confirmed that Vincente is going to be voicing a character in the upcoming summer camp game that everybody is talking about. But this was announced after we talked to him, so like that kind of sucks.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, it is really cool.
Summer Camp is a game which is being developed. I'm not sure. We've posted some content. We are one of their exclusive content creators, I guess. There's a handful. They're getting a lot of steam, man. Like, they're talking about games going to be very similar to Friday the 13th. They released a teaser trailer, all these things. They're really, really going hard and trying to get this out. It's asymmetrical horror game, so that's why I say Rob isn't going to pay much attention to it, but that's up me and Cass's alley.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this.
Hell yeah.
Fingers crossed, everything goes as planned.
Oh, so it's one of those where you play against other people?
Yeah.
I always dominate those games. I'm too good at them. They get boring.
My God.
You know, like, why do you make me do these things? I got to navigate a soundboard in this condition. Bullshit. There it is. All right. So I was thinking, this is a very long conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we don't do a mailbag this week and we'll just have it on the next episode.
That sounds good. Yeah. Because he did. I wasn't expecting it. He gave us a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened with Adam Green, too. It's like we don't plan for this stuff to go as long as they do. And usually we try and get in and out between an hour and 30 minutes is the sweet spot.
But what are we gonna do? Tell these guys we're done?
Yeah,
And not only
really.
that, like the conversations go so well. Like we're just talking, dude. And those are the best interviews. I don't even like calling them interviews. They're conversations.
They're just I was gonna say they're conversations.
Yeah.
And Vincente's an awesome dude. We've already gone back and forth a little bit, and he's a friend of the show. He's been on before. We love talking to him. Anytime he has something coming up, we're going to try and get him on to chat.
Yeah, great guy. A lot of fun.
Absolutely. All right, drink roll call real quick though, since we're not going to do a mailbag. I am kind of excited about my drink. What are you guys drinking?
Oh, I didn't know we were doing drink roll call. I'm drinking Diet Pepsi.
Hey, son of a bitch. See, disappointment after disappointment. This is fish week for you. You didn't get high, you didn't get drunk, and now drink roll call Pepsi.
I did have a beer earlier tonight.
Oh.
I had a beer at the fish show.
All right. Well, good. Thanks for letting me down yet again. It's like watching Superman not be able to fly or something.
It was.
Oh my god.
It was a session IPA though, so it was only like 4.5%.
You made it worse. What the hell? Why would you say that?
I didn't know that's what it was when I ordered it.
Cash, you don't know Fish Show Rob. Like that was the thing. Like I thought we were in for some shit this week. This is the biggest letdown ever, since the Tyson fight. Like this is
you really did hype it up like crazy. You're like, oh, you should be so excited for when Rob gets into chat later, and then Rob popped in a chat last night and you're messaging me saying, get in here right now. Rob's in the chat and ours in the chat, by the way.
God damn it. It was all nothing though.
Yeah, please, R's in the chat. Yeah. We got some R's in the chat too.
Yeah, we did. Respect.
Talk about that on next week's mailbag.
All right, good.
Leave that there.
All right. Yeah, I just talked about this already, but it's indoor fish is different than outdoor fish. It's just a whole different vibe. It's a whole different thing.
Yeah, disappointed.
I will be seeing them. I'm going to see them outside in September, but it's not on the weekend. So,
oh, you're going to let me down again. I'm not even going to get excited anymore.
I think it's Tuesday and Wednesday. They're doing shows in Atlanta.
Shame on you,
Rob. Just get like obliterated tomorrow night. Just completely obliterated. Like, call us and don't even make a single sentence happen. Just be obliterated.
Cass, are you drinking anything fun?
I am. I have this like melon and lime beverage. It's from Seth and Riley's Garage.
Whoa.
That's the brand, and yeah, it's like it feels like a margarita without tequila, but it's good. I like it. It's got a nice kick to it.
Sounds like you went to some guy named Seth, like shed out somewhere in Canada.
It's really cool. I mainly bought it because it just looks like a cool bottle.
Is that a Canadian thing? I never heard of that.
I don't know if it's a Canadian thing or not.
Does it come in a bag or a bottle?
Oh, it's a fuck off. It's in a fucking bottle, man.
Come in a bag or a sensible container for a drink.
That's a good one.
God. I don't know. I just bought it because it looked cool.
All right.
Sometimes that's the move for drink roll call, man. Yeah. That's true.
Oh yeah. That's a valid reason to buy something for drink roll calls. Hey, that looks kind of cool. Why not?
All right. I am drinking, and I made this way too strong. I got some Sprite. They had Sprite on sale when I was grocery shopping this week. It's called Sprite Chill, and it's a cherry lime. And I was like, okay, and it was on sale.
Of course you did.
What's the problem?
Everything got to be flavored, doesn't it?
Sprite is
Crown
flavored
Royal.
in itself.
Everything got to be flavored something different than normal.
Again, Sprite is a flavored drink. Like, what is to begin with?
It's Sprite flavored, not cherry flavored.
No, it's lemon lime flavored. Like out of the box. Literally. What do you mean?
But that's what I'm saying. You can't drink anything as it comes out of the box. You always got to add some flavor to it.
I didn't add anything. I opened the can and that's what was in it. All right. And you can't blame me. Sprite has a new flavor out. I like cherry. I like lime. That sounds good. Come on, leave me alone.
All right.
So yeah, I got that. And I threw some rum in that bitch, some Bacardi. And pouring. See, it's hard when you have two clear things or something of the same color. You forget how much you poured of which one.
You got to measure it.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. It's a rare fucking solo cup, Rob. Let's relax. Measure it. All right. I never mind. I'm not going to say it. All right. Yeah, drink roll call was a failure. I don't even know what to say.
I got bad news for you for next week's drink roll call too.
Go to the store right now. All right. We're going to kick you guys over to the interview with Vincente DiSanti, and we'll wrap it up at the end of that. You're an idiot.
Fucking Rob, man. Oh.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Kelly Clarkson with Wayfair. My favorite thing about the holidays? Decking out my whole house. It's not a competition, but if it was, well, I'd win the season with Wayfair. Outdoor inflatable Santa? Got it on Wayfair. Trees, lights, and ornaments? Wayfair. Hosting must-haves like dining sets, beds, sheets, and towels? Wayfair. For everything in your style delivered with fast and free shipping, visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app to win the season. But again, it's not a competition.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care. Go to Dutch.com to get vet care that is always there for just $92 a year.
Vincente, how you doing, sir?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for joining us again, man. We appreciate it.
Oh yeah, happy to be here.
Absolutely. This is Rob. Rob was you were here for our last interview too, yeah?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah, I was here last time.
Unfortunately, he was there then and he's here now.
It's a pleasure to have me.
Actually, if you guys can give me 1 second, I'm just gonna grab my water and I'll be right back.
Take your time, man.
I'll be right back.
You know what? I'm gonna get one too. I'm glad he said so. Hang on.
All right, I'll just sit here.
All right, I'm good.
All right, he ran off to grab some water too. You said that, and then he was like, "Oh, that's a good idea."
Yeah.
So now we don't know.
Copycat.
Yeah, I know, right?
How's things going?
Not bad. I just woke up from a nap, and I'm like, still trying to wake up a little bit, but all right, you keeping busy?
Never stop.
Yeah, that's good. Right?
Never ends.
Isn't that the truth?
I know. It's like every time I stop, someone goes, "What are you working on?" Turns into like a half-hour conversation. Like, well, there's this, and then there's that, and then there's this, and this, and this, and everybody's lining up these projects, and it's like, Jesus Christ, I just realized I'm booked for the next, 3 years. And there's a lot of fan films where I don't get paid.
That's a good thing, though, man.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing. I was thinking about it, like, there'll be a time when I got nothing, and I'll be like, I wish somebody would ask me to do something.
Yeah, it does boil down to that. And I see that sometimes too, where I'm like, man, I got so much shit to do, and it's this. And then when it slows down, it's like, man, I kind of want to do something right now. But yeah, as you mentioned, though, you have so much going on. And every time I look at, what Womp Stomp is doing, I'm like, damn, man, like it's rare you guys are doing one thing at a time anymore. What's it like juggling that? Because you had obviously Never Hike Alone, and it just kind of snowballed from that. But now it's to the point where you're juggling multiple projects. What's that feel like now? I mean,
it harkens back to, the work I did when I worked in feature animation. I'd be working on one project, but then I'd be working on the studio schedule for being like, hey, you know what? In a year and a half, all these artists aren't going to have any work anymore. We need something to put them onto once we finish up this slate in production. So let's say like a storyboard artist, it's like once the storyboard artists are done, they need to work on a new movie when this movie goes into animation. And so I've always had that mentality, and my mentors have always said, like, don't work on one thing. You should have at least 5 projects going at the same time, because you don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, you could be all prepped for something, and then your actor breaks his leg. And so you're like, okay, well, while, so-and-so recovers from the acting surgery, well, we got this other thing that's pretty close. Well, let's push this thing along. We'll fill that in that space. And, we'll move along from here. And then, everything's moving at different places. And I believe that projects become better when there's time in development. So we get started early and we work on things while we're working on multiple projects at the same time. and letting those things naturally develop. So, for example, I would say probably one of the best runs that we've had for Womp Stomp is, we went from Never Hike in the Snow to Dylan's New Nightmare to Jason Rising, and then back to Dylan's New Nightmare, finishing up Jason Rising, finishing up Dylan's Nightmare. And all those projects were on their own tracks, doing their own things. And, eventually by the time they came out, they did what they were supposed to do. They hit the scene with force. They were good. They were well thought out, and they took, multiple years to create. And so you can't just, if you focus on one film for 3 years, you're only going to make one thing over those 3 years. But between 2020 and 2022, we systematically released Never Hike in the Snow. Then we came out with Jason Rising, and then Dylan's New Nightmare came out. And those were all projects that were happening at the same time. And while those were wrapping up, I was able to then go right into Never Hike Alone 2, and then Never Hike Alone 2 carried on. And, and then I ended up taking a little bit of a break just because that was a lot in 4 years. It was those projects. It was a bunch of side projects that we were doing. And it's really about time management and, what is the, what is the priority right now? Like, what is going to shoot next? What is, or, taking a hard look at something and looking at a script and saying, you know what, guys, I don't think this is it yet. I don't think you should launch yet. I think that we need to sit back and really, aim this out right, or we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot in the short term. And so it's a lot of decisions like that just go into it. And I think that, internally, I want to do them all at the same time with all the same energy. It's just about sort of managing expectations and, working it until you feel like it's ready.
Yeah. Yeah. And keeping that same energy throughout, the long processes of it. It's very difficult. And I feel like you guys have done a great job in kind of managing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, it's not always a success. We've had a couple of projects in between, like smaller ones even, that, we tried to launch and help people with Kickstarters and Indiegogos, and those didn't necessarily take off. And so those are good learning lessons. And again, it's like, if the project's not ready, if an audience isn't ready to accept a project and it needs to go back into the development, pipeline, then, that's just what it is. And you learn from that. And, you start to sort of learn more about the market too. So there's different things that kind of happen. It's just about, like I said, it's about spreading the energy out. And then just when it's time to pull the cord on something, you pull it and you go.
If I had to juggle all that, it'd be such a mess. Like, I put the wrong Indian on the wrong movie and stuff. It'd be messed up.
Oh, mistakes
He's
get
not
made
lying.
for sure. Mistakes definitely get made. I mean, I was on a meeting today, and and one thing I was thinking about a sneak peek for one project, and then somebody else was talking about a trailer, and I started saying, well, for the sneak peek, and everyone's like, "What's sneak peek? Like, what's the sneak peek?" I'm like, "Whoa, wait, the trailer." That's right, the trailer. Sorry, I was thinking about something else, and you do have to keep that in line, but it's good to be busy, and I think it's just about, I really kind of value my time in a way that, like, if I'm sitting down with you to work on your project, then, I value your time too. And so we're going to work together, and I expect that in return, a lot of the studio, like, I have to really say that, like, a lot of these teams just make me look good in a way, because I come in maybe once or twice a month to give them, my opinion and sort of weigh out where they're at in the process and things that they should think about. And they're the ones that go off and work on it for, multiple weeks or multiple months. And so I'm really just sort of the steward of the ship to let them know if they're heading in the right direction, or if they've taken a misstep and they might be, floundering one area or really doing well in another area, and saying, well, let's focus on this. And so, a lot of those times it's just about being a good manager and kind of letting people run their own projects. Because at the day, I really do feel like that. I don't want to be an overbearing producer that is trying to take ownership of someone else's project or push them off of the directorship or anything like that. That's, no one's having fun when that's happening. But when I do step in, I'm challenging my filmmakers to think about what they're doing and sort of say, like, hey, this is sending alarm bells for me. I think you need to reevaluate this. I can give you an example of what I think is the correct way, but I need you to come up with something that makes sense to you. And sometimes I come up with an idea for them, and a lot of the times, they go off with an idea that I throw at them, and they come back and be like, that was fine, but we came up with this. And I'm like, that's even better, and it's yours. Run with it. Let's do it. It's about that encouragement. It's about keeping people positive, because I think that one thing that I see a lot of in the independent circuit is a lot of, like, false positivity. You see a lot of people rushing out to create lots of projects, rushing them through, getting them out there, writing one draft, thinking that it's good enough. And then they just keep cycling through the same thing, and nobody levels up as far as, like, the way that their game gets, versus, like, these teams that really sit down and, like, develop and work on a project, and maybe they release one project that year, or maybe it's another year passes because it's not quite ready yet. But by the time it does come out, it has a more substantial place in, in the film circuit. Like, I think one that we had like a lot of good success with was Bath Bomb. Bath Bomb took its time. It was something that Colin developed for a very long time. We took it into Kickstarter and, raised it some money, or I think we were on Indiegogo, actually. We raised some money on Indiegogo for that, and he went and did it, and he's had a fantastic run. And it wasn't that, it was his 12th, short of the year. It's the one short that he's worked on in the last 2 years, but he put all that effort into it and got him into almost every festival under the sun. So I sort of like, that's my mentality. I think that it's fun to go out and make films with your friends and sort of just like put stuff together and whatever the format ends up coming. I just think that there's a certain level that that I'm just used to, and I try to bring that to the independent side.
Yeah, and you could tell too. Like you see a lot of these, the bloody disgusting article that this is being worked on, and everyone gets all hyped up, and then it comes out and it kind of, sometimes is underwhelming, and you can kind of feel that energy of who really worked on it and all those things. Dylan's New Nightmare is one of those. Speaking of things you were a producer on, that got a lot of hype. Freddy Krueger, we haven't, similar to Jason, we haven't seen really anything on that front either. What was it like working on that project?
That was a lot of fun. Cecil's very passionate about Nightmare on Elm Street. To bring on Miko Hughes to reprise his role. When Cecil pitched that to me, I was like, this is a great idea. You actually have something here that has lineage. It feels like an extension of the old idea. And, I feel like it matches up well. And if you can convince Miko to do it, I think it would be good. And he sort of enlisted me to go over and talk to Miko and say, listen, fan films don't have to suck. We can make this like legit, and we're going to get it to that level. And I would say that like Dylan's New Nightmare is a perfect example of, we got together with the right intentions. We started off on a path. We, shot a trailer or a little teaser, Miko waking up in bed. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have a Freddy at the time. And, the results sort of spoke for themselves. We ran a crowdfund campaign. Miko brought in some attention, but we didn't give anybody the sizzle to really say like, man, these guys really got something going here. And then, we had enough money to get the project going, and we wanted to get a little bit more, and we went out and were able to shoot it. And once we were able to, we really took a hard look. We changed some people on the team. We ended up getting the effects done and getting, Freddy in makeup. And once we could show that people were like Freddy in makeup and show people that we had a really good look, we were all sitting there on set that day debating whether or not we should show it. And I believe, if I'm correct, I think we had launched a new campaign, and it hit its goal, but it was just sort of in demand. And then I said, listen, we need to release a press release with this image of Freddy in it. And when people see this image of Freddy, they're going to flip. And that's what's going to draw a lot of attention to the project. And that's exactly what it did. I've been, ever since then, I've been calling it the 100-mile-an-hour fastball. Like, we need to throw the 100-mile-an-hour fastball down the plate and blow it by everybody and show them that we're throwing heat. And once you do that, you create heat for yourself. You're going to create more resources because more people are going to want to back the project, and you're going to get the financing that you need to, reach your potential. And, to Cecil's credit, he listened the entire time. He had a lot of really great things to say. Every time we went off with a challenge, he came back and you put, 110% effort into it. He had directed a few things before, but I think he was looking to up his game. And so he, opened himself up to, to input from myself, from Ben, from Dave, anybody who sort of had, an insight into a scene or a shot. His ears were open, and we all worked together, and we're all really proud of what we came up with.
Do you know if there's any plans to go down the never hike alone road with Dylan's Nightmare? Are you guys looking to follow up on anything with that, or is that just what it is?
Yeah, in fact, I have a 150-page script waiting in my inbox that I'm supposed to read to see what the rest of this journey looks like for Cecil. And admittedly, for Cecil, this is sort of like his cake and eat it too draft. To kind of figure out if he could get everything and anyone to make a cameo, that he would write it this way. And there's a through line through it that I'm going to pay attention to. That's sort of okay, if no one says yes, we also still want to make this movie. And that will be a question. It's if too many people say no, and we can only sort of take it so far, do we want to spend all this time and energy doing it? Or is there a way we can write it that it's still going to be exciting for fans? We can continue, Dylan's story, which I think we really can. I'm sort of leaning towards the original, Never Hike path, which is to keep breaking it up into sections now that, hopefully we don't have any pandemics that are going to bog us down for a year. But if we can break it up into multiple sections so we can focus on parts of the story and film a couple episodes and release those over time and give him sort of leeway to do that, keep a campaign open and keep going back and forth, I think that that's going to be the best case scenario, because we have some big ideas with that. And it's going to take a lot to, bring those all together. We got a lot of people to bring in from all over the country. Dave's coming from Canada, Nora's coming from Florida. A lot of the team is in Los Angeles, and then another part of the team is in Phoenix. So, you're talking about bringing all people to one place and sort of figuring out the logistics for shooting all that. Where's everybody going to stay? Where are we shooting? What are the, what are the aspects? I think we'll probably spend a little bit more time in Los Angeles this time. Majority of the production was done in Phoenix, and then we did a lot of B-roll second unit stuff in Los Angeles, which was really fun. Because when you watch the movie, and it's one of my favorite things about the movie is that it really, despite being shot all in Phoenix, we do enough coverage, and the opening of the scene, going over Los Angeles, it's like, we're in LA. This is an LA movie, baby. This is a story that takes place in LA. And it's and that's what it's going to feel like. He's got to feel like he's in it. He's got to feel like an actor. And, I think that's basically all I really do for Cecil's. I just say, hey, here's the bar. Here's the goal. We got to convince everyone that we're in LA. And so once we do that, we'll release it, type thing. And again, it's we figure it out. We got a really good team, really smart people. And then we just trust in that and move forward holding hands.
And that's so important to keep that in mind with, as far as if someone says no, because you still need to tell your story. And I feel like that's something you really, really got good at, because Never Hike Alone 2, for example, if Tom Matthews says no, it changes the movie, but you guys still have everything you need, to tell that story and make something that people really want. And yeah, that is because, names are important, but the content that you're putting out is so much more valuable.
If Tom says no, I probably don't do Never Hike Alone 2 as it is. I probably take the original concept and do an original project. But because Tom said yes, it was that opportunity to be like, I'm going to have a chance to unofficially
balls to the wall.
Yeah, balls to the wall. Rewrite Friday the 13th history. We're going to give fans the ending that I always wanted to see, and I hope they like it too. But this is how I wanted the series to end. This is how I always thought it would happen, and that was the opportunity here. I mean, a lot of people ask me about the money. They ask me about, the originality and not being able to own the project and the fan films and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, guys, don't you understand? I got to stand on set and direct Tom Matthews and direct Vinny Guastafaro. And I got to, and I got a bunch of Friday the 13th fans who are out there saying that they'd rather watch my movies than some of the real ones, and that they'll take this as an ending over Jason Goes to Hell. And I was like, that doesn't pay money. I mean, it's enough people to pay the bills to get these films made for the most part. But I mean, right now, I'm as far as Never Hike Alone 2 going, is that I basically save up money every month to put into our shipping account so I can finish the shipping. And so, we ran out of money on that project eventually, and, everything went into the perks and the film and all that stuff. And then, shipping increased between, the time we launched the project, and we're still working on it. I mean, we launched that project in 2022 and we're still shipping perks. And so, it's been a long-term project. There was a lot of things that happened in order to get that film done that, affected me, in my life and my livelihood and all those different things. But, when you get to the end of that journey, just like the Brutalist, it's not about the journey, it's about the destination. And I got there. I mean, if I had walked back in time to 2016 before I got started with Never Hike Alone, or if I had the ability to time travel to 2015 when I shot the first Never Hike Alone that I never released anywhere, and I could pull that Vinny aside and say, guess what? By the time you get to 2023, you're going to have, a full-length feature film with Tom Matthews coming back and reprising his role as Tommy Jarvis, and you're going to be able to make that dream Friday the 13th project you've been thinking about. It's going to happen. I would have been twice as rabid about getting it done if I knew it.
Right.
A lot of the whole time it felt surreal. I couldn't believe that it was happening. And I just sort of took it for what it was worth. I always knew that one day we'd get to the end of it and I had plenty of time to work on original stuff and it would always be there. But if I had walked away from the opportunity to work with these people and do the film the way I did it, I think that's one thing that I always would have regretted. There wouldn't have been a paycheck that would have been big enough for me to be like, yeah, I mean, I got to make my movie, but I always wanted to I always wanted to say something about Friday the 13th, and I never got a chance to say it. Maybe I never got a chance to work on one of the original projects. I no longer wanted to leave my dream of working on a Friday the 13th film or creating something that was legitimate in Friday the 13th. I didn't want to leave that in the hands of the studios or the hands of the rights holders because, even after all this work, I still haven't gotten a phone call. I did come close to working on the Crystal Lake TV show when Brian Fuller was on it, but aside from that, it's been like a stone wall, and I've never had anyone reach out. I've never had anyone offer anything. I've got to work with people on the game, and I got to work with people on the puzzle game and stuff like that. But as far as like being able to work on an official one, that offer never came, and I think I gave a pretty good interview
Absolutely.
at least to be like, hey,
hell of a resume.
Yeah, hell of a resume to like come in and do this. But again, like at the end of the day, when you step back and you step out of the world of fan films and independent filmmaking, you have a guy like Brad Caleb Kane who has been show running and who is a huge Friday the 13th fan and has his own, done all the right things on the right side of the business to earn the opportunity to, tell the Crystal Lake story. And I'm really excited for that. And, it's not anything that I'm like, well, how the heck can they not pick me and all that stuff? It's like, well, no, because that guy has legitimate credits and he's been paid a lot of money over the years to take the pressure to run a network show.
Right.
So that's why. I mean, even when I was trying to get work on these shows, it wasn't like I was like, I need to be the showrunner and all this stuff. I was like, I just want a job. Like, put me on the AD staff. And, one of the cool things about, when I was kind of pitching on the show is what I pitched to them was like, listen, I'm really good. I'm a really good PA. I can work any of the 4 quadrants of being a PA, but I'm really good with first team, which is working with the cast, or I can be your key. What I would really love to do is just like work under your wing for a season and then somehow get into a DGA program if you guys can point me in the right direction. And then I'll go into training. And then maybe by season 3 or 4, I'll be out of training and I'll be ready to do second unit on an episode. Or maybe you'll watch the Never Hike Alone stuff and watch me develop over the next couple of years and understand that like I have a full grasp of the way that the set works. I know how the time works. I know how to be creative. I know how to work with actors, that maybe you'll feel comfortable by that season to let me run with an episode. And I think in the long term of that, if that ever happens, like it's not just something that's like, oh my God, I'm living out my dream. I think a lot of people who have seen my journey starting back in 2016, who have been following Womp Stomp Films since we had like no followers, to go like, wow, I watched this guy who was really passionate about Friday the 13th create these projects that I really love. And then he ascended and they actually took him in. And I was part of that. I helped him get there. And I think that that's something that a lot of fans would rally around. I think it's it's good, not good vibes, but it's good karma both sides. You know what I mean? I think I think especially right now with the way the Jason universe is sort of, they're sort of like fielding, like getting like bombed by, fans and sort of like getting mocked for some of the stuff that they're doing and rightfully so. I think that a lot of the things that they've released have been questionable. I think that their strategy is definitely up for debate. The news has been slow. People are rabid for new stuff. And, like I was telling somebody the other day, it's like, fans are really rabid because they want a game and a movie and they're getting a haunt, a toy that nobody knows what it has to do with anything with. And, in a TV show about Pamela, not even Jason. And I feel like that's the mood going around Friday the 13th. But I know, I've heard some things from behind the scenes. I know Jason is coming. I know he's there. It's just sort of like, if you guys can, I think it's one of those things like if fans can, and that's one of the things I'm really good at articulating to people. It's sort of that, listen, like Friday the 13th is so much better. It will be so much better when it has a really nice foundation under it. And you have to understand that the whole foundation starts with Pamela and her relationship with Jason. And Pamela was a badass in the first movie and she does some really nasty things. And I think that she's earned, after 45 years of only having one movie, to have, a season's worth of work. We're going to see a young Jason, which is going to be really interesting. Who knows what that young Jason's going to get into? Who knows what he's capable of? And then, eventually we're going to get to Pamela's death and Jason's going to take over and it's going to be the Jason show. And, they're going to come back to Crystal Lake and we're going to be following Jason through different stories and, seeing what his story was and getting a lot of answers that we never had, being reintroduced to characters that we love through new actors. And then, from there, we'll see. I know that the Jason universe is actively meeting with filmmakers and talking about trying to develop a film. I know some of the filmmakers that they've interviewed who actually turned them down. But they're out there looking, you know what I mean? It's not, it wasn't, they turned them down because it was bad. It was just because those filmmakers in general were like, we appreciate the offer, but we're not big Friday the 13th fans. So we're not the right people for this. And so, and in the meantime, it's like people know that I'm out there and I'm just waiting for like one of these people to just be like, you should talk to this guy. Like, but you know, it hasn't happened yet. In the meantime, it's like, you know what? I have my little world that I'm playing in. We're doing Ghost in the Fog right now. You know, we just crowdfunded an animated piece that we're going to get done this year. We're working on the final cut. I talked to the editor again today. And we're both on the same page with a lot of different things. It turns out that since I moved back to Massachusetts, because I used to be in LA, I'm building a small team out here to sort of I'm calling it like for now Womp Stomp East. And you know, we have a team, and I was talking to that team, and I was like, you know what, I'd love to do, guys. I'd love to just do like a kill montage with Jason. And they were like, bro, we would just do that to do it. Like, you don't have to pay any of us. We'll just go. And so I was like, you know, we ended up cutting this scene out of Never Hike Alone 2 that we never got to make because we ran out of time. And like, you know, if I would have pulled the core team together, it probably would have cost me $10,000. But you know, if these guys want to get together at my parents' place, you know, they have this house in the backyard that we don't really use. It's sort of like an old pool house and the pool's gone, but we could make a barbecue scene. Like Jason could stumble on the barbecue and take out people to barbecue one by one. We just have to go and block it and figure it out and get some people to volunteer and do some, maybe pay for some effects and stuff like that. For the most part, I think we can bang this out in a day and add 3 to 4 minutes to the film and then add maybe 4 to 5 more deaths. And it was like, and that will be something exclusive to the final cut. And they were like, well, hell yeah, let's do it. So it's like, you know, it's those types of things where it's, you know, I love being able to kind of expand on that stuff. And then in the meantime, Ghost in the Fog will be happening. They should be done by the end of the year. We'll be releasing them live, you know, for the public next year. But we're really encouraging people to back the current Indiegogo. Everyone who backs the Indiegogo who had backed the previous Final Cut Kickstarter, they're going to get early access to the film. So we're hoping to get them done before the end of the year and then allow people to watch them at home. And then we're going to take them to film festivals. And I think we're going to delay we may end up delaying like the full public release all the way till like September of next year and use the first 2 Friday the 13th for early releases for our backers.
Okay. You threw a lot at us. I want to just go over it kind of systematically.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that and this was something I meant to ask you last time we talked, and we just got carried away with whatever we were talking about. Would you ever, or is there any plans that you have to release that original Never Hike Alone that nobody's ever seen?
It actually did get released on one of my episodes of the Ghost Files. We did a review of it.
Okay.
So we watched it there, and then we're doing a whole brand new edition of all the Blu-rays with this new campaign. We're doing a box set. We ended up losing our previous vendor, so I have to remake all the Blu-rays. And so in the process of that, I was like, well, let's, you know, add more bonus features and all that stuff. So the original Never Hike Alone will be on the original Never Hike Alone disc. So you'll be able to watch Never Hike Alone, and then the bonus feature, you'll see like the first Never Hike Alone. And so it's cut together, and I'll probably tweak it a little bit more just to give it a little bit more sound design. But I'm gonna leave it raw, and I'll probably I might just do like a little card at the end, just being like kind of explaining, you know, what it is and sort of what it is, and just let people see that, like, listen, like this is where we started, and this is not good. And if you ever saw this, you wouldn't think it was made by the same guy, but like I put in the work, and 2.5 years later, I had Never Hike Alone.
Yeah,
and this is the difference. This is the difference between sort of like having an idea and then committing to an idea.
Every episode of our show should have one of those cards on it, Mikey. This is not good.
He ain't lying. but people love that shit though, man. Like I want to see it, you know, like I wish I didn't know that you guys reviewed it. Like I want to go back and see that. It's something about the evolution and the growth and the ideas and those things. And maybe it's a horror thing too. Like I don't see anybody saying, I want to see the shitty version that never came out of like Marvel, whatever, you know, like horror fans love that stuff though.
Yeah.
Because there's like, it's charming. That's what the genre's always been about.
And you're going to recognize the set. You're going to recognize some of the shots. It wasn't, and you know, and it's because you'll see, it's like I wasn't far off. It was just that I needed to do some work. I needed to work on myself. I needed to get better as a director. And it's just a good learning lesson. I think it's a good, you know, kind of staple to be like, you know, and I think that, you know, one of the other shorts that we have that I think is on the Never Hike in the Snow Blu-ray in the Red Room was my next step. I was like, okay, I got to be a little bit better at this. We went and did the Red Room, which is on our YouTube channel. It's a 48-hour film project. It's like, it's pretty much, you know, Evil Dead at an Airbnb with a little bit of a different twist, but it works. And you know what I mean? And it was a step up. It was something that was congealed. It actually felt like a real piece. And then that was the thing that gave me the confidence to go out and do Never Hike Alone.
And you mentioned that you were in talks of working on the Crystal Lake show, and I had never heard that. What happened with that? Why was it just Brian Fuller leaving that it kind of fell through? Because we said last time we talked that like you should be in the running for the director of the film. You know, like we feel that strongly. So what happened with that?
Yeah, I mean, in fact, it was because of the fans. Fans reached out to Brian and said, you should check out what this guy's doing with Never Hike Alone. Brian watched our teaser with Tommy, the Tommy diving into the water teaser, and reached out to me and said, hey, man, I just want to let you know, I saw this teaser. I think it's really, really good. I love what you did with the two Tommies. So-and-so and so-and-so have been reaching out saying we should talk, let me know when you have some time. And so I hit him up, and it literally took me a year to get a sit down with him because he went off and made Dust Bunny. He was in Budapest, and then he came back and he was editing, and I sort of just pinged him every now and then to be like, hey, Brian, just checking in, and would love to just sit down and talk with you. And I think that because fans are very gracious and very nice, and they come at him and they say, this guy's got to direct, this guy's got to direct.
Yeah.
And so when Brian sat down with me, like he thought that he was gonna have this conversation of being like, hey man, like I know you don't have any industry experience, I just can't hire you as a director.
Right.
And I said, and so when we sat down and he sort of like, we started to talk, I said, that was the first thing I was like, Brian, I want to clarify something. I know people have probably, because he started going into like, I've already got figured who I want to direct. And I was like, Brian, let me just stop you right there. I don't expect to walk out of this conversation with an episode to direct. I was like, let me explain to you. I'm, 17 years in the industry. I spent the first 8 years in, feature animation. I worked my way up to production manager. I was on my way to line producer. I left to work in live action. So I started working live action sets for the AD department. I've been a first team PA, a key PA, a background PA. I've done walkies. I've done, deep lockup. I've done everything under the sun. I've been doing this to get better at directing because I eventually want to be a director. But for, Crystal Lake this for a season, where I'm at is in my journey is I would love to come to work on your AD staff. I want to work under your AD. I want to work under you. I want to, I want to do a good job, and I just want an opportunity to grow under your tutelage. And I'm here for this, and I'm here to do whatever you guys need. I don't expect anything, but I know one thing I do know is that I'm qualified to work on this show in this very specific department, and I would love to work in that department. And if opportunities come along the way, we can talk about those as come. And my goals would be, I would take mentorship. I would take advice on how to get into the DGA mentorship program and how to do some of that. Earn my days and get the rest of my hours and finish all that up and finish my book. I don't know if for people that aren't familiar, when you work in film and you work for an AD department, you're basically earning days to get into the Directors Guild of America. And your book is a track of, you keep your call sheet, you keep your pay stubs, and you just basically have to prove that you've worked, I believe, 500 hours or 500 days or something like that. And, you need to show that. You need to prove that you have put in time on set, and you get stuff signed off on, you need sponsors, all that stuff. So it was one of those things where I had worked in the industry and I never really had someone kind of looking out for me in that regard. And I started to put together my book on my own, and I was looking for someone to be like, listen, I want to come onto a team where I can talk to the first AD and the second AD about helping me with my book so I can finish it, so I can take that next step, so I can get into the director's program. And so, yeah, so obviously I'm kind of dragging on about this. So what happened is I met with him, and then I met with a guy named by the name of Kevin Lafferty, who was the line producer on Wednesday, who was coming in to line produce Crystal Lake. They were putting together the show. I had a great conversation with Kevin. Kevin was basically like, yeah, man, he's like, there's a little bit more paperwork to get you up here because they're going to film in Toronto. But I think we can do it. We can get you some housing, and then we'll have you on the show. But, give me a couple months and we'll figure it out. And once we have everything sussed out, we'll reach out to you. And, as far as I was concerned, like, okay, they're not going to shoot till September. So I got time. And I think this was like March. And then like literally a month later, it was Brian Fuller's leaving Crystal Lake. And now Brian had sat down and pitched me a lot of the show and gave me a rundown of like what the goals were, what the connections were, what his hope for Pamela was. And, we just sort of nerded out about Friday the 13th for like an hour and a half. I was really sad because what he had planned was really exciting. And I think it would have really given Pamela the edge that would have won a lot of fans over and being like, whoo, wow, Pam is nasty.
Yeah.
Like, whoo, you know what I mean? And he was pitching me something that was like really, really fun and like really twisted stuff that I thought was really nice. But what he also pitched me was, and at the time, it sounded like a pretty expensive show. And I believe when he signed the contract to write the show and do all of that stuff, that was pre-strike. And then the strike happened, and then the studios lost a ton of money. And then I believe, here's what I can guess happened is Brian came back with the show that he pitched, and he told them that he was going to make. And when they heard that, they replied by saying that, well, that's great and all, but now the tables have turned. We don't have as much money, so you're going to have to do that with about half. And you're going to have to get rid of all these things, and you can't have this person in this thing. You can't hire this actress, or you can't do this, all the costs that are going to be involved to get this show done. It's just too expensive of a show. And I think for Brian, if it wasn't going to be gold standard, he wasn't going to do it. And Brian has a lot of things on his, Brian has a lot of things on his plate. He pitched me 2 other projects that he was working on that he even said that, like, listen, I can't wait to do Friday the 13th, but I might not even stay because I might get an opportunity to go work on this other project that, like, I'm actually a little bit more passionate about. And I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. So when he left, it's sort of like the whole thing blew up. It got delayed a year. They ended up hiring Brad Caleb Kane. I mean, I can't tell you how many emails I have sent into the ether to different people at A24, and I literally got in contact with the AD who was supposed to be the AD in Toronto. I dug so deep to get information, and he was like, man, I wish I was still on the show. He's like, but at least, like, we got to talk for a second. And so I'm telling you, I went through under every nook and cranny, and I tried. And again, like, it's just one of those things. It's like right now there's a PA working on Crystal Lake who's probably never watched Friday the 13th before, but it doesn't matter. They're out there, they're making the movie, that's their opportunity, and all those things are happening. And, I think maybe things will come down the line if it ever's to go. And in the meantime, there's another opportunity for me. I have this great, YouTube channel that has, 93,000 subscribers, working its way towards 100,000. Our channel has over 16 million views. We got a lot of traffic, and a lot of it has to do with Friday the 13th. And there just so happens to be a Friday the 13th TV show coming out, and I have a podcast. Right. So why not put all those things together and be that, be the Chris Hardwick for Crystal Lake, and step out there and be somebody who's got credit as a Friday the 13th fan who knows what he's talking about. I can reach out to Friday the 13th alumni. I can pull them on, and I can have conversation with them. I can reach out to other content creators and have, a round table style discussion for episodes that come out and what people thinking about it. What does it mean for the series? How does it relate to the franchise? And, it's not coming from a place of like, okay, well, I'm like the industry plant that's been stuck in this chair to talk about Friday the 13th, even though I hate it. It's like, that, like, I'm rabid about this stuff and I want to talk about it. And I want to bring on other people who are also rabid about it. Like last week I had Jason Parker from Friday the 13th franchise.com. And we had a great, like, usually my podcast maybe lasts like an hour 15. I mean, I think we went out there for 2 hours, but just because we were so excited to talk about everything that was going on Friday, everything that was released, even some of the issues. It's like, wow, we got this, like, they promised us a figure, but it's Jason's birthday and all they show us is like a NECA logo and the same mask that we've seen for the whole year. So, this feels kind of like a big letdown. But I think that it's important that it's not negativity in the sense of like, we're out here bashing and trying to get that, like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? We're not trying to bash it and push negativity. It's more about just like, no, we're just reading the room. This is what we're hearing from online. Yeah. Jason, who runs the website, he reads the comments, he checks on the things to see how people are going. And we're both sitting there like, as two people who have been Friday the 13th fans and have sort of a place in the Friday the 13th community, as I would say, in some type of leadership capability, of the fact that, like, we're known for at least something, even though we're not officially tied to it. I guess we could call it super fans or something like that. But, we come from a place of like, we've been doing this for a long time, talking about Friday the 13th for a long time. We've seen every opinion, it's like I've seen and heard and argued and debated everything. And so I know all the arguments. I know Friday the 13th inside and out. And I'm just excited. I'm just hoping that, there's a new generation of fans that's going to join us, that's going to welcome it with open arms, and that we're going to be able to go to a place to talk about this show and talk about the things that are going to be released. Like, eventually there will be a game. Eventually, there will be a movie. And so it's just about sort of like, don't wait for it, because if you wait for it, it might not happen. It needs support now. And that's our message. It's like, whether it's good or bad up front, allow them to sort of present something to us, and then we're going to see how in touch with the fan base they are based on our reactions of whether or not they're going to adjust course and do things that are going to fans more, or they're just going to pull a Halloween and just go their own way and just say whatever the fans think, this is our story, and then who knows what happens after it. And I think that I think everyone's fear is that, and I think Friday the 13th fans have a real reason to do this. It's like, we know that when things aren't good, Friday the 13th goes away for a long time. When things don't land, they don't come back. It's like, there was 10 years in between Jason X and Freddy versus Jason. You know what I mean? Like, but it wasn't a smooth ride, or I guess it wasn't that many years. It was 10 years between Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X, I think. But then a few more years till Freddy versus Jason. But it was, you know what I mean? It was a lot of up and down. But Freddy versus Jason doing good was the thing that launched, them being able to come back and do the remake.
Last time we had talked, you mentioned animated Friday the 13th story, and
Yep.
here we are with Ghosts in the Fog. Tell us a little about that. You talked about it a little last time, but now the Indiegogo is out, but it's in the works. It's happening, and you announced it. The freedom that this creates being animated, so many things are so much easier, but then again, you have so many challenges. What has this journey been like with approaching something like this?
Well, animation's always been a love of mine. Working 8 years in feature animation, I never realized how much, animated content I really consumed. And I really took for granted how animated content was produced. So getting a chance to, get fully immersed in that world and learn how to produce and create animated projects is something that, is in my skill set. And so getting into live action, I actually started to really kind of miss, animation sometimes, probably because of the longevity of jobs, being able to settle in for a project for 2 or 3 years versus like every 3 months. But it was also just sort of like the medium and sort of the work style and the pipeline of it, of like starting in script and then going to story and then going to editorial and going around in that circle and working things out and working with, actually having that working relationship with a storyboard artist and changing your story on the fly and not having to just shoot it, but like actually like look at it. Okay, redraw that. Okay, redraw that. Well, okay, maybe we can take a different approach to this and kind of really, like you said, like I kind of said before, like I love that sort of like being able to noodle it type thing. With this, we launched the first iteration of this, I think back in 2002 when we were running Never Hike Alone 2 campaign, and it was something happening in the background, and then Never Hike Alone 2 got delayed, and we were actually losing money from the delay. We lost money to taxes. We lost money to the shooting schedule, getting all sort of bounced all over the place versus one smooth shoot. And so it was one of those things where we had to back off the animated project, but we did have a chance to get it storyboarded and cut. And so that animatic, we put it on the Never Hike Alone 2 Blu-ray. We've released the first 3 or 4 minutes of it, so you can see the first kill on our YouTube. And it gives you a rundown of, it's just, 3 friends who went out hiking. They end up lost on the trail, and they're in a fog and they can't really see where they're going. And then before you know it, they end up in a place where they think they can ask for directions, but it turns out to be Crystal Lake, and it's an abandoned camp. And so while they're there, they're kind of looking around. They encounter Jason, and it's not rocket science. I wouldn't even say that this is like, not, Never Hike Alone, where we're going to go around and really kind of tell like deep story and do big character work. We're basically just setting up, a few characters. They run into Jason, and then all hell breaks loose. And what we really want to explore is, what we can do in gore for animation. So pushing the gore, having a lot of fun with the stylization, creating a world. Ultimately, this is a 10-minute short that's going to have 3 very gory and unique deaths that we've never seen before in the Friday the 13th franchise to date. In animation, you do the things you can't do in live action. So that's what we're really focusing on. And what it does in the long run is that, as since this project has now been successfully funded, and it is still funding if you want to be a part of it on Indiegogo, it will be up in demand for the rest of the year at least. What this does is it opens up other opportunities for us to now create and show you what we can do in animation. And if fans take to it, like I think they will, when we step back into crowdfunding and I say, hey, I want to animate this story about Jason, or I want to animate this thing about, this original project that I have called Ghost Chicken. And, and we want to do this as a project, and we're going to work with the same people, and it's going to cost the same amount. And, let's do it. People have that confidence. And, just like with Never Hike Alone, the first Never Hike Alone, we were only able to crowdfund about $19,000 when we finally got, through crowdfunding. Never Hike in the Snow, that jumped up to, and then we did a home video campaign and we made 50. And then we ran Never Hike in the Snow and we made 125. And then we did Never Hike Alone 2 and made 350. So we made, 50 now with, Ghosts in the Fog. And I would say probably even 75 if you count the money that we raised in previous campaigns as a stretch goal for this. And then, I think when we come back with another one, we'll go to that, 150, 200, $1,000 animated production, which will, allow us to now go in and maybe tell a little bit more of a sophisticated story about characters that we'll spend time with and do that stuff. And the other great thing is that since we're not spending a lot of time doing that now, what we're focusing on is the pipeline. And that is the pipeline of, okay, we have a shot that's storyboarded. Let's see what it looks like when we put it through and go through animation and do the background and do all that stuff. How do the steps go? How is the flow? How easy it and how how expensive or inexpensive is it to do certain shots? What types of shots should we avoid in the future? Or if we're going to do it, we only really do it once or twice, and things like that really help us suss out, like when we go back and to do it again, we're just that much more fluent in the process. And what's nice is that Mako Animation, the company that we're working with, also in conjunction with another company called Armas Productions, we're building our sets in Unreal Engine. So we have completely 3D. We have a completely 3D Camp Crystal Lake, which if you go to, I believe, episode 48 or 49 of the Ghost Files Live, we take a tour of it, which is really fun. And so we do that and we drop 2D elements inside and then we stylize everything like a background. So we don't have to paint 1,000 backgrounds. The backgrounds are always there. We just have to move the camera around and then we draw to that perspective, which is really nice. And so Mako has made a project called Horrorland, which they're starting to release teasers for. So if you get on this and you have a chance to go just look it up, just look up Mako Animation, like the Mako shark, and then Horrorland, and you'll see very much the style matches very closely for what we're doing. So I would say look at that, and it's a good gauge of like where this could go. And imagine, like, you know what I mean, every other year, Womp Stomp Films and Mako Animation can get together and we can set another chapter in the Never Hike Alone universe. We can tell a story about Pamela. We can tell the story about the time that Jason comes back from Manhattan and makes his all the way to Camp Crystal Lake, because that's probably probably be way better in animation. Never Hike Alone 3, if we can ever make it in live action, maybe that ends up becoming an animated story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's one of those things where it could be anything. And it's also for our original productions as well. I have, like I said, I have Ghost Chicken. I have a feature film that I would love to do one day called The Last Astronaut. And a ton of other stuff too. I mean, it's one of those things where, again, like I'm going to have multiple projects going at the same time all the time. And then eventually when you work on it enough days, those projects eventually find the light of day.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's Friday the 13th content, which people love in the first place, but it's a different look of the content, and you guys, that gray, I mean, it looks phenomenal. Anybody who's listening to this, if you haven't already, need to go check that out. And the Indiegogo will be in whatever description, wherever this goes, because you guys have awesome perks too, which is always a good time to see when you guys have something up like, oh man, what are the perks this time?
No, yeah, we put a lot of work into that. And just to say, the thing about the animation is it's done in the style of Sin City, so it's black and white, and then everything will be accented. So there will be red blood, just like Sin City, and the axe is yellow, so the axe will be yellow. We wanted to go for something stylized in this one, and let's say in 6 months we get a ton of new backers, and all of a sudden we realize, like, hey man, I think I got enough money to color this thing. We may go in and color it too. So, there's always those options, and the more people support it, the closer we can get it to a refined product.
You guys also are working on Never Hike Alone, the game, which I did not see coming, and I think is awesome.
I am so excited for this. This is the thing I'm most excited about. This thing looks amazing.
Man, it was so divisive. People are like, man, this looks like shit. It's like, chill, guys.
No, I think it looks incredible. I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Yeah, people who understand that it's it's very much an homage to the LJN Friday the 13th game for NES.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's the 2D thing. I'm working with a developer by the name of Robert Allison, who's basically been developing this thing on his own. It was his idea in a sort of sense to be like, hey, how do you feel about doing Never Hike Alone? And I was like, if we do a game and we bring Ghost Jason in and we do all that stuff, I'm pretty sure we're going to get sued. And I watched, the guys who were doing Resurrection, Friday the 13th Resurrection. We're basically just like remaking Friday the 13th the game. They got sued, they got a cease and desisted. And so I just basically said, like, let's do Never Hike Alone, but let's do
I don't like cease and desist.
Yes, I don't want any cease and desist, but let's just do Never Hike Alone and tell a story about our characters. And we'll come up with a brand new villain, we'll come up with a brand new location, and it's just our own adventure story. Like, we'll just create the whole thing, and it'll be sort of similar to, the basis of the way that the Nintendo game was intended, about you're kind of going around a map looking for things. And I wanted a little bit more of a mystery and sort of a story that's going to be fun. And so I've been working with a story with Robert, and then my friend Brandon Scott Murphy's just jumped in and kind of helped expand it out a little bit. And we think we have something fun. We've called it like the ghost of Pearl Pond, and so, it's called Pearl Pond. And like, it's not necessarily set up around this guy going around and helping like campers and save kids, like that. It's more of like a free roam. You're looking for clues. He's going to pop out the ghost is going to pop out, and it doesn't have like a hockey mask. He's just a skull head. But he just sort of like, it's sort of like our In a Violent Nature. It's close, but not exact, and
not enough to get a cease and desist.
Not enough to get a cease and desist. And in terms, we get to turn around and use Kyle McLeod because that's my character, and I can turn around and use Hikerman 5000 because that's my character, and the rest of the characters are people who buy characters to be in the game, which is pretty cool. So far we have 6. I'm going to talk to Robert about adding 2 more, and then we're going to have 8 players too, and they're all real people in real life, which is really great. And you get to be in the game, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. We actually got contacted by another set of developers who saw the game and saw that we were advertising it, and we were like, hey, I just want to let you know we're working on this like really big game right now, but we love this and we're here to help. And so we're going to have a meeting with them. And, it's funny because I just got this package from Vinny Guastafaro, and in it was the original NES game. I mean, fully intact, pamphlet, everything. Wow. And so I kind of put it off to the side, and I was like, I got to study this and look at it. And, right now, I think what people see on that trailer, I won't mince words. It's like, we're in development. And like, he was putting it together himself just to kind of demo it out and try to figure out how to move around and come up with some of the AI and stuff like that. That's like kind of doing some stuff. And not the AI that the game is made in AI, but the way that the characters interact and all those things and the speed and all that stuff. And a lot of those clips were like really, were really sort of old too. I was really splicing up and kind of playing with it. It's just sort of like an aesthetic look. It's like, it's going to look like this. And I love the designs that he's done. The music is great. There's more music which we haven't released. The music that I used on the Ghost File is actually from the game, and I just love the game music. It's so good. And the original Nintendo game music was always one of my favorite things too. So we really wanted to do that. But yeah, it's a goal. We're going to work on it all year. We wanted to play as fluently as that old NES game. It's going to be its own style and look, as far as like, once we really kind of spruce this thing up, we're going to have a really like significant like upgrades on everything, but it should be a fun game to play. And it'll have a cool story in it. That's the cool thing. It's like, as you play it, it's not just about going around throwing rocks at things and, picking up other weapons. It's like, there's actually going to be like, when you find stuff, you're going to get little pieces of this story that we've been working on, that I think is going to make it worth the fun. It's like an interactive, and that's what I love about video games is the interactive story. And so I think that's what we're really going to focus on. The gameplay should be pretty simple. I don't think anyone's going to be too challenged by this.
I was going to ask that because if I remember that Friday the 13th game as being like the most difficult game in the world.
Yeah, that's not my goal here.
Okay.
I'm a really shitty gamer, so I want to play something that I can beat. It's just more about not so much endurance, but you just need to, check all the nooks and crannies, and it won't be too hard, but like it will take up some time, and you'll get to fight, and we'll have I want to talk to them about like, okay, now that we have a little bit more money for this, can we do like cut scenes? Like I always like the old Ninja Gaiden cutscenes and stuff like that. Let's have some let's do some fun shit that like when people unlock little levels, like let's do it. And so like that's where my head is at. You know what I mean? Like I'm not just doing this to be like, just give them something to, like I said, to go throw rocks. It's like, no, I want this to be like, if we're going to, like, I told that to Robert, I was like, dude, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. So get ready to like work. And he's been down. I mean, he's just been like cranking through stuff, and the dude, like, there's been like two surgeries, like while we've been developing this project. So he's a trooper. But I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be, it's definitely going to be, it's going to be a challenge. I know that because I've never developed a game before, but Robert has, and other people that are coming on have. I'm more sitting like where I am in this equation for fans to know is like, I am the fans. Like I'm going to sit down, like I'm the tester on this game right now. And every time it comes in, I have a list of notes. I'm like, this has to do this or blah, 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 blah. Or like, we got to think about how to do this. And we basically brought the demo to a place where like, okay, if we're going to do those things, we got to bring more people on. And that's when we decided to cut that trailer and release it. You know, obviously it was fun to release on Friday the 13th as a surprise. But that helped us raise a significant amount of money now to go and hire some helping hands to start really kind of, you know, building something that's a little bit more developed.
Yeah.
And you can still buy the game and you can still buy it on the
yeah.
Indiegogo. It's still out there.
And anybody who says this looks like shit, I mean, that's probably people who grew up with the iPad 4 or whatever. You know, like these were video games.
Yeah.
Back when we grew up.
I was like, are you crazy? Look at that background.
It's like, yeah, that is very advanced.
I'm like, this is nice.
Yeah.
I was like, I wish backgrounds look like this in the NES games. Like, screw you. This looks good. I think all the work that Rob's done is great. It's just, you know, there's bugs in it. You know, it's like it's an early development thing, and we want people to come in and play the beta and like beat us up, like be nice. But like we want to hear what your experience is, and I'm like, and that's the thing. Like, I want people to play this game and have fun. Like, I'm not doing this so like for shits and giggles. Like, I think this is cool, and I really do think that there is something to the Never Hike Alone brand and the characters that you know.
Yeah,
I love Jason. Don't get me wrong, but like there is part of it that like it's the part of it that's mine is fun, and those characters can go into other stories and they can advance through other things. And yeah, Kyle going on another adventure after Jason, after thinking like he's like out scot-free is like kind of fun. Like him having Hikerman by 5000 by his side is fun. And then as the other people come into the game, who knows, like they may get written into the story in some way. And maybe, you know, they have, you know, maybe we'll kill them. And maybe that's another thing we do. Maybe there's a way that we could like do kill scenes. Like that's our cut scenes. Like if you go to a certain part of the level, like you don't just die and fade off the camera, but you go to a cut scene that actually shows you like a 2D, like animated, like death. Yeah. And that would be a lot of fun. You know what I mean? And so like, those are the things that I think, you know, reaching for the sky, and then we'll see if we can attain those goals. But the more support we have from fans, the easier it is to make those things happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you have a character named Hikerman 5000. Like you guys should have been known a video game was going to happen, right? Like it happened to be perfect.
Well, I just think it's so funny that like everybody thought that the Jason universe was going to announce a new game and then we did.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I didn't realize that like, because I was just doing stuff because I just wanted to have fun on Friday the 13th. Like, I didn't realize by the end of the day, I'm like, man, we released more stuff than the JU. Like, what the hell?
You know, we said that, and we didn't really do shit. You know, I was like, we shouldn't be doing more than Friday the 13th on Friday the 13th. Like, what the hell? And you're right. You guys did a ton. And it was more fun because I was in your live stream that you were doing on Friday the 13th. There's something about the aura of it, and you know, you guys, it was more fun watching your stuff than, you know, sitting and refreshing the damn Jason Universe Twitter, you know, for nothing all day.
But I think that's what fans want. And if you look at modern fandom, it's all about interaction. It's all about them feeling like they're connected with the person behind the account. And I think that that's the number one complaint that I have from a lot of people is no one knows who, you know, the Jason universe is. We've seen the names on the paper and I know who they all are as far as like their roles and all those different things. Like I can discern them from there, but most people aren't looking at them being like, oh, those are so-and-so and they're connected to the films through this way and yada, yada, yada. They're just being like, who are these people and what do they want with my Jason? And I feel like if there was a little bit more, you know, there's a little bit more transparency, if they were looking a little bit more behind the scenes, and I feel like if they were taking more feedback and sort of like acknowledging a lot of the negativity and sort of being like, we hear you and we don't want you to be upset. Like these are things we can fix. Like that design that they released to Jason that got like an overwhelmingly negative review, they doubled down, put it on t-shirts and are building a toy. And it hasn't even been in a movie yet. You know, it hasn't been in a game yet. Now, maybe there's some things that we don't know about that, you know, that they haven't released. Like maybe the new game, that's the Jason from the new game and we just don't know it yet. That's new game Jason. And so I guess that's okay, I guess.
Yeah, I was confused by that Jason design. Like why I didn't understand why release it. It didn't make sense to me. Like it's not tied to anything. You're just like, here's a new design. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with that, you know?
Yeah, and I think the other problem is it's the timing of it. It's like if that was honestly like them releasing the Jason design was the biggest article or the biggest thing that they have released yet, And so if that was the thing that they were going to release, that was like their big heavy hitter, they should have done that on Friday the 13th. They should have waited to at least release
Absolutely.
him now, and then you could have done all that stuff. And then done, okay, here's the new Jason, and we're going to make a toy of this Jason. Oh, and, we're going to do Halloween Horror Nights. And maybe when you say that you're going to do a toy, that you should maybe have a mock-up of that toy ready to go.
Yeah.
That maybe you don't just release, a Jason, painting, a character development painting, because that's all it is. It's just a character development painting. I know a lot of people think it's AI, but it looks like a character development painting. I don't think that's truly AI. But like, how about put an actor in a costume?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How about put this thing and make it materialize it? Let's see what it looks like. And I think that, like, number one thing is when you get the reaction that you do from the people who are in, your demographic, and it's negative, pull a Sonic. Be like, we hear you. Back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
We're gonna hand Greg an eraser, and we're gonna let him build a new mask. You know what I mean? Like, or we took your input and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden, there we go. People are like, okay, they're listening. And it's not that, like, and they'll save so much more money down the long run versus trying to put a product down our throats that people aren't accepting versus making the pivot and then, kind of, going forward and doing it. And it's in their power, and they're at a very early stage to do it. I just don't, we did it for Ghost in the Fog. Our first, production design, it came out and it didn't do great. And I was sort of like, I don't know, this isn't what people want for an animated Jason. And so we went back to the drawing board and we spent some money to redesign the characters. And that's where some of our development money went. And having that adjust and really kind of putting our feet to the fire and saying, okay, we're not going to do it until we release it and they like it. This new version of Jason has gotten a great response. And, we know we're on the right path. And we had to do that early on. If we would have just stuck to the guns, we wouldn't have been as far as we are now. We'd still be paying the same price because people wouldn't want to see that style of Jason on screen.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of things you can poke at. And kind of like what you said earlier, man, we're not trying to be negative. Like, that's not what we've been waiting this long. Like, we don't want to be negative. It's just coming from a place of passion, and there's something about being ominous, especially if you're doing something in the horror genre. But there's also, we're in 2025, and if you're going to have a social media account and run this whole thing and you're making a whole universe, there's some level of interaction that people kind of expect nowadays, and helps you.
I think the scariest thing to me about it is it seems almost like they don't really have a plan. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but that's what it feels like. Like, they announced this Jason universe. Nobody knew what the hell it was when they announced it. And then they've done very little. And what they have done has been rather unimpressive, that it feels almost like they don't have a plan for what they're going to do.
Well, I think if I could sum it up, I would say, they said that they're lining up a bunch of activations. And what that really means is they have a lot of aspirations. And so they know that they can get their character in a bunch of different things, but they don't quite have that deal done with Dead by Daylight. They're not quite there with Fortnite. They were in negotiations with NECA, but they hadn't quite landed on a deal yet. The same thing with Halloween Horror Nights. These are things that are in negotiation, but because the rights are so tricky and because who gets paid what for what thing is such a stickler point, I think what's happening is maybe one thing is it's just going to take a long time to get all these deals done because the deals are complicated, or the more these companies try to do deals with Friday the 13th, the more they realize that it's just too volatile of a rights issue to even want to do business with them. And maybe they're losing business, and who knows? You know what I mean? The only thing we do know is that, Peacock picked up that series, and that's sort of like, it's a division of the Jason universe and it's sort of connected, but I think it's not quite as connected as, A24 is producing it and Peacock is distributing it. There's a lot more people involved. The JU is just sort of there as like the beneficiaries of it being made. You know what I mean? They're not so much decision makers. They're more sort of like they've been bought out for it. And, they're being paid that way, but, the decisions are coming from Brad Caleb Kane and Peacock and the network and the studio. And so this area where they're doing these activations and these things like this is the area that they actually have control in, because they're not the creators of the creative content. They're not creating animated projects. They're not creating new stories. All they can do is sell product and toys, put them on, Jason on a shower curtain, Jason, on your hubcap, whatever it is, whatever they come up with. How many times, what they want to do is they want to take this thing that they've created that's brand new, that's not owned by New Line, that's not owned by any other Friday the 13th film. It's something that's completely separated from the rest of the franchise. And they want to put that on things because when they make money with that, they don't have to split it with anybody else. They don't have to give New Line a cut. They don't have to give Paramount a cut. There's that. And so what I say to them is that I know another character and another design that does that, and it looks a lot better. And I might know the guy who created it and owns it, and not so much owns it, but would let you have it.
Right.
And you could just use Ghost Jason, because if anything, Ghost Jason is a proven, and I hate to say product, I just know what he is. He is a product at the end of the day. At the end of the day, like, you could sell a lot of toys with him. You know what I mean? It's a good design. He's in video games already. He's a great addition. And I feel like, again, it's another feel-good story where all of a sudden, like, they don't have to think that hard about it. They just got to give me a phone call and let's work something out, and let me help me help you. This is a great design, and there's some other designs out there probably too in the fan film world that could get a look at as well. And you could turn those into NECA toys. But in the meantime, why not, and that's the thing, like, because they're not tied to other films, or maybe, you pick ones that aren't tied to other films, they're tied to fan films. Like, all of a sudden you just own those, all of a sudden you own it. They'd own Ghost Jason. They wouldn't owe anybody else anything. And like, they could probably make me a very, I bet that they could take it and not even have to pay me. It would just be nice if I did get some money. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and then officially make it and sort of like kind of night it after the fact, which would be really, really cool. And again, that saves them time, that saves them money, because I've already invested all the money into the look and the marketing and, building up the thing. Ghost Jason is one of the most popular cosplays you'll see at a convention. It's funny because I saw a couple Ghost Jasons early on in my time. Now every time I go to a convention, I see one or two Ghost Jasons, and I'm like, can't believe it. That's probably one of the coolest aspects of this thing, is like kind of seeing stuff like that. And that wasn't forced. I didn't shove that down anyone's throat and say like, oh, well, this is a toy now. You can't. It was something that I put it out there, and I let fans naturally react to it. And this is the natural progression of it. And I don't feel like this new look has that same trajectory. You know what I mean? I don't see a long shelf life for this version. I think honestly, I the other day I was going to post it and I was like, you know what? This is too negative. So I'm not going to do it. But do you guys ever watch Preacher?
Yes.
The AMC. So you remember the episode where it cuts to somewhere, I think in like Southeast Asia, and a guy walks out of the forest and he's wearing an Atlanta Falcons 2017 World Champion shirt?
Yeah.
I was going to post the Halloween Horror Nights and that side by side, and I was going to say same energy.
That's hilarious. That would be really funny. But yeah, maybe a little too on the mean side. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to be that mean, but
that's the thing. Like, you hate to be negative, right? It should be an exciting time. It's been so long, but it just gets, because it's been so long already, it's been 16 years since the last movie. Every time there's a new announcement, it just gets that much more frustrating.
Yeah. And to your point, man, it's like we're partnered with Dead by Daylight. Like we have them on. We just did their anniversary, Springtrap, big thing, and all that stuff. Obviously, we asked them about Jason. Like everybody wants to know about Jason. And one month we ask them, and they sound positive, and the next it's on a negative tone. It's like, damn, man, I can't read the room on this shit. And like, obviously they're talking, like, they've been wanting Jason since the day Dead by Daylight came out. And as it's grown with all of its licenses, it's kind of what it's known for now. Mm-hmm. Jason's like that last big one. That's their last big shot.
Well, he's a staple. He's a staple.
It sounds like they're intimidated by, the licensing and doing that whole day. They've damn near come right out and said it, and that's a problem.
There's also probably a danger of litigation. Because the minute the money goes to the wrong place, a lawsuit's going to open up because they're very, lawyer happy. And, this is a the Jason universe is an agreement between two lawyers. At the end of the day, the only reason why it exists is because it's bringing Victor Miller and his Friday the 13th LLC in conjunction with Horror Inc. So technically,
Right.
it's both entities under one roof, and then that roof is supposed to catch all the money and spread it out evenly and however it's going to go. And I'm sure people get into this situation and are like, God, like this. And
I don't want to deal with that shit.
one, I don't want to deal with that shit. And I guarantee you,
Yeah.
every time somebody's like, hey, we want to put Jason in the game, I'm sure the number of zeros they're writing down on that piece of paper to get Jason is
Yeah.
mighty big. And they may be, I mean, we all have that same value of Jason. I think that like we'd be like, yeah, whatever it costs, it costs. But to a company being like, I got an overhead, Jason isn't in our price range right now. And so maybe they priced Jason out of a few things too, because again, in order for them to make profit, they have to generate a lot of money because the money's going to get split in a lot of different directions. It's not just going to Victor and Sean. It's going to Victor and Sean and the Barsimians and Toberoff and Barsimian. I already said Barsimians, but like all these different entities that are all going to get paid. And they list all the names of all the people that are doing stuff every time they do one of these articles. All those people need to get paid. And and then there's people who are just, I guess, part of that investment. And I think that the best thing that could happen to Friday the 13th is that if some angel investor, someone with $1 billion came in and just bought it from everybody.
Yeah.
And just put all the rights in one place and put it in a safe place and said, all bets are off. Like everything's on the table. Whatever we do, we can do whatever we want. No one can sue us. All of a sudden you would, I think, that's the solution. But I don't know any billionaires that they're huge Friday the 13th fans. So I guess
that's a great idea. Let's pool our money. Mikey, what you got?
Not much. we got a long way to go still.
Yeah.
Maybe that's my next crowdfund. It's like, let's crowdfund for the rights. Call them up, be like, what's your number? What's the number? What do I got to hit? All right, let's do it.
And you mentioned, like, I don't know if this is what you were touching on, but you mentioned that Ghost Jason's in a game, and there's a game, speaking of cease and desist, but that's a whole nother story. There's I don't know if you call it a game, it is a game, but a modded version of the Friday the 13th game recently came out
called Camp Forest Green, and it is a blast to play. But
Ghost Jason is in it.
Mhm.
I don't know if you're aware of that.
I am.
What are your feelings on that?
Love it.
Me too.
You kidding me? Like to turn on YouTube and then see Jason in that form is like, it's a dream come true. I wanted him in the original Friday the 13th game. I was begging Ronnie. I was like, Ronnie, how do we make this happen? And at the time, before they were going to go through all the legal stuff, Ronnie basically, he said that they were going to name the free kick kill Never Hike Alone. But legal told them that they couldn't. I guess they couldn't acknowledge me. So there's definitely something with legal that I had to get around that wasn't going to work right away. But he basically said to me, he's like, listen, like the thing that holds us back from making a new character is basically it's like 80 grand, 80 to 100 and something thousand just to create a new character. And in my head, I was like, I could crowdfund that. It's like, I can crowdfund that. Let me crowdfund that. You know what I mean? I'll give you the budget, and then we'll go mocap, you can mocap Kane, you can mocap me, like, let's do it. And make it happen. And it wasn't that Ronnie said yes, but in my head, I was like, you know what? Like,
You didn't say no.
he didn't say no. And I knew that there were 3 or 4 other Jasons that they were working on. And honestly, I think this Greg Nicotero Jason is something that's been in the pipeline even back to Gun. I think that Nicotero was going to create this for the original game and it never got happened. And I think that they held, like, I think because the rights holders get to hang on to everything and they own everything. I think that this was something that was sort of in development for a long time. And so they were working, but then they said that they had people working on stuff. I think Rick Baker was working on another Jason. They were all designing these stuff behind the scenes, and then they were going to do it. And so once they got through those and they finished Jason X and the Grendel and all that stuff, it was like, we're going to get to a point like at that point, they were in the headspace of like, we're going to get to a point with this game, like way down the line where we are looking for content. And in my head, I'm like, okay, that's where we'll intersect because I'll be that much further down the road with Never Hike Alone, be a little bit more popular. Maybe I got some of those other films done. and I'll run a crowdfund, and if we say like, hey, if we raise 80K, we can add Ghost Jason to, Friday the 13th game. I know that fans would have jumped on that. And that would have been a really cool experience. And so, that was a dream that, was very fleeting, very quick, because obviously things happen with the game.
Yeah.
So when you turn around and you see a bunch of other fans like resurrect the game in their own way, and they, and a lot of those people that like the reason why why Ghost Jason is in those games is all those developers hit me up and they were like, we want to put him in the game. Do you have any like reference? And I sent them every bit of reference that I had. I said, you guys run with this and have fun. Like,
That's awesome, man.
just the fact that you guys are doing this and building this, like all the power to you. Like, take whatever assets you need. Like, I'm not here, all I want is to just like, the bigger and badder I can make Ghost Jason, the more legendary I can make the character and spread him out. It just, it's going to go into that game and someone's going to be like, what Jason is this? And someone's going to go, oh, it's from Never Hike Alone. Oh, well, I mean, they're doing all the marketing that I'll ever need. You know what I mean? They're
right.
I was talking about with Jason the other night. Not Jason Voorhees, but Jason Parker from Friday the 13th.
You sure?
Was that, a lot of the new age Friday the 13th fans are gamers. And they know Friday the 13th through the game, and they're not even that familiar with the films. And so, again, like going back to the Jason universe and going back to like the way Womp Stomp has presented itself into the scene, and how we can be sort of a conduit for this, this communication, because we get the fans. We sort of like, we have fan cred. We've been answering to the fans for the last 8 years. Like my friend Brandon kind of wrote this article, and I said something I didn't realize is that like, we've had to bear the weight of fan expectation, which, I didn't expect, you know what I mean? I had it a little bit on the first one, but it wasn't as like, there weren't so many eyes on me. We hadn't made the spread. And then, with the rest of them, there was like a lot of people watching each time. We could have let a lot of people down if we took a huge, misstep here or there. So we
it's all we've had.
So yeah. And it's just interesting there. And I think that like, it's tough for me because I experience, at the professional level, a lot of people like will say cool things about Never Hike Alone, but for the most part, like it's kind of dismissive as far as like me trying to progress in my career. Like people would be like, oh, fan film. And, I've been to film festivals and I've gotten the looks from people and, just different. They're not enthusiastic. Like I remember, like I did a lot of work for this film festival. I traveled and did all this stuff, and I offered to be like, hey, I have this like test piece and like so-and-so is going to be there. And it would actually be a nice way. Like, can I submit this and get to play it in one of the blocks and do some promotion? And it's sort of like, yeah, we're kind of getting tired of the fan film thing, but I guess we'll do it. And it was just sort of like, man, like nobody's excited about this. I'm like, God, this is like my dream. And like, you guys are all acting like I'm wasting everyone's time because it's a fan film. I was, and like, I didn't want to like turn around and like say anything, but it was like, I was just kind of like, guys, this stuff looks really good. It looks professional and I think it will look great in your block. Like, and you go to other places too, and they're like, well, we don't want to play it because it's been on YouTube, or we don't want to give it its due. And I'm like, you realize that this thing has like 1 million views already, right? Like, there's people in your area that will come and watch this on a big screen if they know it's going to be on the big screen. That's what Friday the 13th fans do. Don't think about it as something that's already been released. Think about it as something that can draw people to the festival. And if there are more people to the festival, there are more people who are going to be here to watch stuff. But, it's not that like Never Hike is always a draw, but it's, I always think it gets kind of dismissed in a way. And that's been sort of unfortunate, but at the same time, like now that I'm a little bit further past it and I'm starting to see sort of like the impact it is and the way that people talk about it. That's where it's kind of become nice to me to see some people sort of say that. And now seeing like the perspective of the way that Jason Universe is rolling stuff out, and like, that Friday the 13th goes by and I'm sitting there, like I launched, the trailer in the morning, the game trailer, we released 2 figures. A 1/6 scale figure that was like custom made, that has cloth clothes and like is all posed out. We're doing an animated figure, which is still in progress, but we got a 3D rendering that we released. We hit a certain goal, so I ended up releasing a 1 chapter of Friday the 13th fan film that I'm doing called The Ghost of Crystal Lake, which is that story about Jason returning to Crystal Lake from Manhattan. We actually read some of that on the Ghost Files that night. And just we didn't stop all day. To us, and I think to fans, and I think to a lot of people, Friday the 13th is becoming more and more of a holiday, like a true blue holiday. Like
Oh yeah.
like fans are out there, and it's not just us. Like we obviously had a field day, we released a bunch of stuff, but all day fans were posting their mask collections, their Blu-ray collections. They're watching movies, they're going to screenings. They had that great screening in Los Angeles with Dead Meat and Sean Cunningham. You had events all over the country. I was talking to Ron Sloan. He was up in Calgary watching Part 5 with friends, and I mean with some of the fellow cast members like Tom Morga and Melanie. Were up there, and so they were up there doing that, and and so there's just the celebrations going on everywhere. People are down at Camp Novi Bosco. Like we celebrate Friday the 13th go big or go home, and I feel like with 3 Friday the 13th next year, maybe Jason Universe is holding some of its cards, but I think by next year they really got to get a better plan for like each Friday the 13th that hits. They should aim to blow fans out of the water, and that should be their only goal, because that's what my goal is.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest big disappointment too. There's only one this year, so like I feel like this was
it's Jason's birthday,
right? This was your day.
Yeah,
like this was the day. But yeah, you talk about there's a local theater here every Friday the 13th. They're screening at least one of the films.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to those screenings. Usually, I didn't go to the one this Friday the 13th, but I've been to them in the past, and they're packed. People are just there to have a good time, and it's a big deal. So yeah, it was a bit of like, all right, well, it was underwhelming.
Yeah, but it's maybe they didn't have stuff ready for Friday the 13th, but the show is fast approaching, so I think that's kind of a nice thing. We'll have stuff to talk about, and that's going to be. It's going to sustain us. It's nice. I think that, as topsy-turvy as it's been so far, I think that we were talking about it the other day. It's like we're sort of like an abused animal. We're like, well, at least they're paying attention to us now. We're not neglected out in the barn anymore. They're actually giving us some water.
They let us in the house.
Yes,
Thank God.
I think
kinda.
They're giving us water. I think it's pee, but it's still liquid. But no, you know what I mean? Like we finally have something to talk about other than the same 12 movies we've talked about for the last 15 years. And, I think that people, certain to agree, are also, like I said, sick of fan films. It's like there's a new fan film releasing like every 3 months. And it's impressive. And I totally think that people should go after it, and they should tell their stories, and they should have fun. But I think the days of fan films really sort of like capturing wide audiences are over. I think that they're, I don't know what it would take. It would take like a whole new level of production for that to happen.
Probably.
But it's not to say that it can't happen. But I think people are ready for the official thing. So that's why attention is going to turn that way. And I don't know. It's like, it's sort of a win-win situation for us, because if it's good, at least we get to say that for a time we got to carry the torch, from a fan standpoint, and, we had a good run. And then if the new stuff isn't that good, I think people look back in the stuff that we did in the last 8 years and be like, maybe those fan films weren't so bad. And then that's a good time to turn around and be like, well, there's this new project called Never Hike Alone 3.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And which I honestly think Never Hike Alone 3 could be the best one.
I was just going to add, obviously you want that, but like, is there any pen to paper on it? Like how soon, or, obviously we're not expecting it.
It's not going to happen anytime soon, because I really do need to do some original stuff. And I have some idea. I have one idea in particular that I'm like, I locked in on, and now we're just figuring out how to make it happen. But Never Hike Alone 3 is, it's going to be a collaboration. I'm going to need some help. It may be the first one that I co-direct, live action style. And I have somebody in mind. I already reached out to them. They're really busy too. I have somebody I want Ryan to be the lead, and I'm going to call him out because he's sort of like, well, I don't know if you really want me as the lead of your character. Well, I'm like, Ryan, and I'm selling this in front of the world right now. Like, Ryan's one of the most endearing, sweetest humans I've ever met in my life. He doesn't need to act. He just needs to be himself. It's the same thing I did with Andrew Lady, and it's the same thing I did with Cortland when they were both in the films. I didn't need to ask them to be anything more than themselves, because the films were written to them and to their personalities. And I believe Ryan is a fantastic actor. Everything I've seen him in, he's believable, he commits, and he has fun doing it. And I believe in the story of Never Hike Alone 3. because the story of Never Hike Alone 3 is that in this situation, Hikerman 5000, Ryan Gordon is going to be his name, is me. He is the fan trying to follow in the footsteps of the franchise Trail Junkies. He's trying to make the new Trail Junkies on his own, a fan junkies, if you want to call it. And he's out there trying to do all the things that Kyle can do, and he's stumbling and he's bumbling, and he ends up in the forest with turns out a bunch of rival YouTubers who all like see his channel all the time and like pick on him and like make fun of him. And the only reason why he gets invited to other streams to collaborate is so that they can like basically jackass him and pull pranks on him and like do it. And this is the one thing he's trying to do on his own. And what do? They follow him out into the woods and they make his life a living hell. And while they're on the trail that, you know, Kyle was on, they end up finding the same trail. They end up at Camp Crystal Lake, and you have now 5 influencers in Camp Crystal Lake post the events of Never Hike Alone 2, raising hell, treating it like shit, defacing it, and doing all the things that Kyle didn't do, and angering Jason. And anger Jason so much that he ends up waking back up to deal with this issue. And we see that like Jason sort of is a little bit more like Godzilla, where he rises from the sea, he does his thing, and then he returns to the sea and he goes back to bed. Like, and that's sort of his new model, and that's sort of the way that new Never Hike Alone tales would be told, is that he is just a creature of the lake now. He is just something that is there. He's not out existing in the world like he was in the years before, where he was actively in the camp and he was bumping into people all the time. Now he's just like living in the lake or just like sleeping in the lake. But these characters like really mess with him and piss him off. And so he comes out, puts himself back together, and we get 5 unique Never Hike Alone style found footage experiences with Jason.
Ooh.
And that's what makes it really fun. It's sort of like the first Never Hike Alone multiplied with multiple points of view and multiple personalities. Some you'll like, some you'll hate, some you'll love to see killed, some you won't want to see killed. And then in typical Never Hike Alone fashion, we have a really big ending. And it leaves the door open for more. And it's like I said, like for everybody that's on there, when it all comes back down to the Ryan Hikerman 5000 character, he's the guy you root for. And like, I know that, you know, him out there, him on that screen leading, you know, being the one that's really leading us through the story, that, you know, it won't take long for fans to fall in love with him. Like I've fallen in love with him. And I know that he'd do a killer job. Yeah, I mean, I got the whole thing pretty much figured out. It's outlined already. I just got to figure out what I would do is, before I would write it, is that I would figure out who my 5 influencers are, and I would find 5 influencers and cast them in this movie. And these are people that I've already worked with in previous projects, or in something that I feel like I don't want anyone to come out and act on my set. I want them to be themselves. You know what I mean? They're going to have a different name, but they're going to be an accentuated stuff of themselves. They're just going to be, you know, and I'm going to keep them between the rails. And it's going to be fun. And the idea would be to, you know, I think that if I had a critique of Never Hike Alone 2, would be that like it's very much an all-out action movie. There's not a lot of suspense as there was in the previous. Like in Snow, there was a lot of suspense, especially with the, you know, the ending sequence with the cop in the attic and all that stuff. And Never Hike Alone is full of suspense. And Never Hike Alone 2 is like more of a straightforward story with a lot of action and a lot of like, you know, big moments. But there wasn't much of like stalking and slashing and what's going to happen next. When's he going to come around that corner? A lot of that stuff. And it just really wasn't the type of movie for that. And so Never Hike Alone 3 allows us to bring it back to that style of movie and take the best parts of Never Hike Alone 1, but actually be able to follow through with it a little bit more. Whereas Kyle, when he got attacked, we had to find ways for him to survive and figure out a scenario which would be believable. Now we don't have to have these characters survive anymore. And I would say that if anyone wanted a tease, and it's a very light tease, not really, it's actually a pretty decent little project, but we have something on the Never Hike Alone, the Womp Stomp YouTube in the Never Hike Alone section called The Lost Tapes, Ghost Jason Attacks. And it's a vertical video, complete found footage, one point of view the entire time, recording of the final moments of like these 3 people that are running around Camp Crystal Lake, and Jason is chasing them around. It's actually Cortland Gordon, the guy who plays Mark Hill in both Never Hike in the Snow and Never Hike Alone 2. He's in the flashbacks. He he sort of like we just did it for fun one day on a weekend and it came out great. We have 3 kills in it. It's very low budget. It's it's definitely like it's definitely rough around the edges. Like there's parts where you can kind of tell that like there's not a lot going into it, but at the same time, like it sets a vibe, and it was sort of the inspiration behind Never Hike Alone 3. So if people watch that, I think it would give them an idea of like, oh, this is how we could kind of come up with something. And the other thing I really love about it, it would be a much cheaper production overall, because we wouldn't be doing a lot of the big sets and like going to all the different locations. We'd primarily just be in the woods at camp again. And we could do it with a much smaller crew, and we can do it with like very guerrilla style. So most of the money now, instead of going into like big, massive production costs, would just go into like the visual effects.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. By the way, Light Tease was Rob's nickname in high school. That's what I heard. but and that's the essence, man. Like we say it all the time. Like just put Jason in the camp. That's all you need.
Yep.
Like you don't need to go to Manhattan and space and all these things. And it's a beautiful thing to hear that, kind of going back to the origins of the character and what everybody wanted all along.
Oh yeah.
Good for you having your finger on that pulse. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, these are just the Never Hike Alone universe really organically sprouted in my brain, and it's not just one movie. I mean, I see an entire 2 decades worth of story, and it goes all the way back to the 50s with Pamela. I would love to tell all the stories, because I think when you put that in context with the original series 1 through 8, and then you just sort of wrap the Never Hike Alone lore around it like a blanket, it just sort of all makes that much more sense. And I think it's all that much more endearing. So when you watch the films, there are certain moments where, sorry about the thing I was saying, all those moments that sort of we try to amplify it. We try to make those moments mean a little bit more something when you come across, when you go back and you watch the Friday the 13th, and you watch young Tommy and you think about Never Hike Alone 2 and the way that now that's connected to that, and the way that part 6 is connected to that, and how, we're taking things from these brilliant directors, and what they've done and continued their stories and gave their stories a place to sort of, crescendo in a way. And I feel like back in the day, very much each Friday the 13th director was handing the baton to each one and sort of trying to get to a certain place without really having to get to the end. And, the ending sort of kind of went askew eventually. And this was sort of our way of putting a cap on it. But at the same time, there's so many other opportunities to go in there and just sort of fill in these little cracks, or even just come up with these scenarios that are like what ifs and what have yous, and just play with the character, like, just like putting him in the snow, or, what would happen if in this scenario, what would happen in that scenario. And when you start playing with that stuff, it's like it doesn't need, not everything needs to be a 90-minute movie. It can be just snippets. And I think that, if I was going to pitch to Jason Universe, I'd be like, yo, you should just set us loose to go do 5-minute shorts and just slap them all over YouTube. People would eat that up. Like, we'll make them high level, we'll make them fun. And, I got this whole idea that I want to do Forest Ranger, service announcements with Tommy and Jason, where basically Tommy's the forest ranger and Jason's sort of like the agent of justice in the forest. So you see somebody littering in the lake, and so Jason kills them in some interesting way. And while Jason's like murdering that people and the person in the background, Tom steps out in the foreground. It's like, Jason and I don't always see eye to eye, but one thing we can agree on is that littering in the forest is wrong. Please make sure that you pick up your trash and blah, 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 blah. Like a really good message. Then they like turn around to Jason, and Jason will stop murdering the guy, look at Tommy, give him a bloody thumbs up. Tommy will give him a thumbs up back and be like, protect the forest, folks. See you on the trails. And then cut off. And that's like, public service announcement by Crystal Lake Forest Service. You know what I mean? And so, and you just have a series of those that just pop up. And imagine if that's popping up on TikTok. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the stuff that is going to go viral. That's going to make people, what's Friday the 13th, or what's this thing, or what's the meme with Friday the 13th, or what's this Jason meme, stuff like that. That's what they need to be thinking about. And unfortunately, I'm not sure, and this is no offense to them, because I don't think the training that these people have is in Friday the 13th. What they have is managing IP, like how they would manage any IP. It wouldn't matter what the IP is. They're trained to do and manage IP. And they know what Jason is, and they've seen Jason, and they've certainly watched the films and they've done it, but have they lived and breathed Friday the 13th long enough to really get the essence of the character and the fan that drives that character to keep coming back to the theater? And that's the thing that they really have to ask themselves, is if they don't understand that, they need to start reaching out to those fans and they need to really get their finger on the pulse, or else this could be a really big missed opportunity. And that will just be unfortunate for the fans, will be unfortunate for them. And that's not what anybody wants.
I love your vision, dude. I always have, like just it came through on screen, and then talking to you just brings that to a whole nother level. But you have been so generous with your time. I don't want to take up any more of it. We appreciate the hell out of you for hopping on again, dude. Looking forward to everything you have going on. Let everybody know all the fundraising and everything will be in the description of everything. But let everybody know where they can get in touch with you, everything Womp Stomp, and all that stuff.
Yeah, WOMPSTOMPFILMS. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on X, Twitter. We're on Instagram. That's probably where we're most active. We have a TikTok if you want to find us. I post once every now and then. But you can, email us. Yeah, I know. I don't TikTok much. I don't do the TikTok.
Me either.
I just do it to post trailers when we have a trailer. What is it? If you wompstompfilms@gmail.com if you want to get in touch with this. But Ghost in the Fog is currently crowdfunding on Indiegogo. We reached our goal. I think we're at $60,000 right now. Our goal was 50.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're pumped about that. We have a chance to keep raising money. We want to do these extra scenes. So definitely check it out. We're going to be releasing new perks throughout the summer, throughout the rest of the year, new t-shirts, new figures, new ghost masks, and all that stuff. So definitely check that out. I also want to do a shout out to another campaign that we're currently active on right now called Slay, which is directed by Kira Gardner, the daughter of Tony Gardner, the famed effects artist from Alterian, who designed Chucky and did The Blob and Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
And, if you don't know who Tony is, you don't know horror. So basically that. But Jimmy Simpson is a producer and writer on the project. Shawnee Smith is in the film. Aya Cash from The Boys is in the film. A slew of young, talented actors are in it. It's basically Bodies meets. I don't know if it's I Know You, which you did last summer, but it's like Bodies, but a slasher film. We're crowdfunding for it right now. They're trying to get post-production funds. I think we're about $40,000 into a $150,000 production with roughly 26 days to go, which, we're on a pretty good pace. I think we're going to hit our goal. But definitely check that out. That's on Kickstarter. And they can find that at all my Womp Stomp stuff. We have the links everywhere. So definitely check that out.
Nice. I'm going to track that down and throw that in there because I want to check that out. It doesn't have Pete Davidson in it though, right?
No Pete Davidson.
Thank God.
No, it's great. In fact, it has connections to Never Hike Alone too, because the director of photography, Evan Butka, and the gaffer, Gonzalo D'Angino, were both my gaffer and DP for Never Hike Alone.
Nice.
So it's the same. It's a lot of the same team is on that. So, hey, it looks good.
Absolutely. Beautiful thing. Vincente, thank you so much, man, for your time. We appreciate the hell out of you. We can't wait to see what you have coming, man. Thank you for keeping Friday the 13th alive for us, dude.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, I mean, I think there lots of fans are doing that. Fans get together and they celebrate it. I'm just happy to be a part of the community, and I'm looking forward to everything that's coming, and hoping to talk to you guys down the road as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll definitely be in touch.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
All right, you guys have a good one.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care. Go to Dutch.com to get vet care that is always there for just $92 a year.
All right. That was a fun conversation. Love having Vincente on there. Cass, you missed that one, and that was a blast, dude.
I know, unfortunate. I was again traveling, but
Yeah.
hopefully we'll talk to him
You can
again in the
believe it.
future and I'll be there.
You can believe it. Cass was away.
Yep.
Yeah, but it was very similar. Like it's cool that we had two interviews. Like I mentioned earlier, the Adam Green one and this one. Like they just kind of rambled on, and we just had fun talking about horror stuff, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it was a good time. I enjoyed it. I'm still really looking forward to that video game. That sounds like a lot of fun. And,
yes, and there will be news coming out about that soon.
Okay.
So to throw into that's a teaser, like a dun moment, you know?
Yeah.
And make sure you're following us or subscribe to us on YouTube and wherever else, because we will be posting about that when we are able to. These two don't even know what the hell I'm talking about.
I have no clue. That's fairly standard, though, so.
But yeah, but make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube so you don't miss any information on anything horror movies, horror games, all that stuff. We have it all covered. Podcast goes out on YouTube as well.
Smash that like button and ours in the chat.
That is
how
so
to do it
annoying.
in sync with you. Oh, Rob.
I hate that more than life itself. But yeah, the podcast episodes go out on there, so you can't comment on them. That could be a way to get into the mailbag as well. We'll pick out, so if anything's worth throwing in there, we definitely will. Patreon.com/radio tier starting as low as $3 a month. You do get a 1-week free trial. Now is the time to utilize that. We got a lot of shit going on. Early access to everything we do is on the Patreon. So yeah, YouTube, Twitter, everywhere else that you're listening to this, make sure you're subscribed. And I'm at Mikey's Dead. Rob, what about you?
Radio Rob 123, and you can listen to the other show that I do, the Nick fucking Woo Cagecast, which you can find wherever you're listening to /a radio.
Hell of a deal.
Julio.
Canada?
I am Makeup Mistress on all platforms.
Makeup X Mistress. Why? Why do I gotta say it?
I just like it when you do that. It's fine.
You're gonna get Makeup Mistress followers. She's gonna be so confused when they're talking about bagged milk and everything else in her comments.
Whoever has that fucking username should give it to me then.
Oh, they don't do
Fucking hell.
that. Trust me. There's some asshole on TikTok that I'll tell you what.
You gotta sue him.
That fucking guy. I did everything I could to annoy him. Like, I reported him for impersonating a celebrity. I followed him because I thought that would be funny when he saw the actual Radio Rob 123 followed him.
I would have blocked you so fast. I would have thought you were a stalker, dude.
You know what I think? I think he doesn't even use it.
Impersonating a celebrity.
I think he doesn't use it at all.
That's even worse.
Oh, God.
Even somehow worse. All right. We'll be back next week. Thank you again for Vincente hopping on with us. Everything that he's working on, all the things that we mentioned, Kickstarters and all that stuff, will be in the description of this episode, so it'll be nice and easy for you guys to find. Next week, we'll be back with Dan Allen talking about Bambi, The Reckoning. Good night from Slasher Radio.
All the best of Slasher Radio podcast.